Feynman once asked, a beautiful question, simple, yet difficult. What keeps a train on the track? Most people answer, very quickly, very confidently. The flanges on the wheels, those inner lips touching the rail. Feynman said, that is not it. Not the real reason, not the mechanism. The flange is safety, only a backup. If it rubs, you hear it scream. That sharp squeal, metal against metal. That sound means something failed. So if not flanges, then what exactly? He connects this to another problem. Something familiar, something ordinary. Your car turning a corner. When a car turns, outer wheel travels farther. Inner wheel travels less. They cannot rotate at identical distances. So engineers added a differential system, a clever device, gears inside gears. It lets wheels spin at different speeds. Otherwise turning would be impossible. Now Feynman asks, have you seen a differential on a train? Look carefully under a freight car. 2 steel wheels, 1 solid axle. No gears visible. No separation inside. Both wheels rotate exactly together, locked as one. So now the puzzle, how does it turn? The outer rail is longer distance. The inner rail is shorter distance. Yet both wheels spin together. No differential present. This seems impossible until you notice something subtle, something elegant. The wheel shape. Not flat cylinders, not simple discs. They are tapered, slightly conical. Thicker near center, thinner toward edge. Almost invisible difference. But critically important. That tiny slope changes everything. Feynman emphasized this. Look closely sometime. You will see a beveled surface. A gentle incline across the tread. Now imagine a straight track. The wheels centered, perfectly balanced. Both wheels touching, same diameter region. They rotate equally. Everything stays straight. Smooth motion forward. But now imagine entering a curve. The train shifts, very slightly sideways. Just a little movement. That sideways shift changes contact points. The outer wheel touches thicker region, larger effective diameter. The inner wheel touches thinner region, smaller effective diameter. Yet both wheels still rotate together, solid axle unchanged. So what happens? One rotation now covers different distances. The larger diameter wheel travels farther forward. The smaller diameter wheel travels slightly less. This difference creates steering effect. No gears required, no mechanical complexity, pure geometry. The train naturally follows the curve, because of shape, not because of flange. That is the beauty. Feynman loved this ordinary object. Hidden intelligence inside. Now he adds another insight. What keeps it centered? Suppose a bump pushes it sideways, just a tiny drift. Immediately geometry changes. One wheel rides on larger diameter. The other wheel on smaller diameter. Since axle is solid, they must rotate equally. The larger diameter wheel tries to move farther. That motion difference steers train back toward center. It corrects itself. No driver input, no electronic system. Pure physical feedback. If it drifts left, it steers right. If it drifts right, it steers left. Automatic stabilization. Only if displacement becomes too extreme. Then flange touches and safety engages. But under normal motion, flange does nothing. Just waits silently. The real work is done by shape. Tiny taper angle, massive consequence. Feynman admired this because it hides, in plain sight. You see trains every single day, yet rarely notice wheel geometry. The mind assumes simple explanation. But physics says, look deeper. Look at structure, look at form. Nature often solves engineering problems with geometry, and that geometry is enough. Enough to turn, enough to stabilize. No extra mechanism, no wasted complexity. Just careful design and elegant physics. This is why Feynman called it a harder question and entertaining too, because the answer feels surprising, yet once explained, feels obvious. That transition from confusion to clarity, that is physics, that is insight, and that is what he wanted people to see. Feynman did not stop at simple turning. He pushed deeper into stability, because turning alone is not the whole story. The real question becomes, why does it stay centered? Why no constant correction from the engineer? Imagine straight track, perfect alignment. Wheels balanced evenly, contact points identical. Everything looks stable, everything seems calm. But rails are imperfect, steel is never perfect. Small vibrations happen, tiny lateral shifts occur. Suppose a small bump pushes train right, only millimeters, almost invisible shift. Now geometry changes, instantly and automatically. Right wheel rides on thinner region. Left wheel rides on thicker region. Different effective diameters, same rotational speed. Because axle is rigid, they must spin together. So per rotation, left wheel travels farther. Right wheel travels less. This creates yaw, a slight steering angle, and that steering pushes train left, back towards center. No sensors involved, no active control. Pure mechanical feedback. This is self-correcting motion, built into geometry. If it drifts opposite, mechanism reverses direction. Now right wheel larger, left wheel smaller, steering reverses automatically. It oscillates gently, around equilibrium, small side-to-side motion, but never instability, unless speed extreme, or track damaged. Otherwise system remains, naturally balanced. Feynman loved systems that explain themselves. They disturb them slightly, they respond logically. Not by force, but by proportion. The taper angle is very small, only few degrees, barely noticeable visually. Yet that small slope creates diameter difference. Diameter difference creates distance difference. Distance difference creates restoring steering force. Step by step, pure reasoning. This is engineering, guided by physics. Now think again about automobile differential. Cars need complexity, separate wheel rotation, because wheels flat, cylindrical surfaces. Flat cylinders cannot adjust effective radius, so engineers added gear-based compensation. Trains avoided this by shaping wheels. Geometry replaces machinery, fewer moving parts, greater mechanical reliability. Freight cars travel across continents daily. No differential required. This simplicity matters because trains are heavy. Extremely heavy loads, massive momentum involved. Adding gear systems would increase failure risk. Solid axle design, stronger and simpler. Conical profile solves both steering problems, curve navigation problem, and centering stability problem. One geometric idea, two physical solutions. This dual function impressed Feynman deeply. He often pointed out, nature prefers economy. One principle applied in multiple ways. Now imagine extreme case. Suppose displacement grows beyond small corrections. Wheel approaches rail edge. At that moment, flange finally matters. Flange contacts rail, prevents derailment. But by then, primary mechanism failed. Flange is insurance, not everyday steering. And that distinction is intellectually satisfying, because first assumption was entirely wrong. Most observers think flange does everything. But real mechanism is hidden in shape. Feynman encouraged people to challenge first answers, especially obvious ones. When explanation feels simple, ask one level deeper. Look at constraints. Look at structure. In this case, constraint is solid axle. Given that constraint, system must compensate. Compensation emerges from tapered geometry, not added afterwards, but built from start. Design anticipates curves. Design anticipates disturbances. It anticipates imperfection in real-world conditions. That anticipation is physical intelligence, not conscious thought, but structural logic. And when you understand the wheel profile, you suddenly realize why trains appear stable. Even at high speeds, the wheels slightly hunt, left and right gently. Tiny oscillations occur, but always bounded, always corrected, unless critical speed exceeded. Then instability grows. Engineers call this hunting oscillation phenomenon. But under normal operation, geometry keeps order. Feynman enjoyed pointing out these hidden feedback loops because they reveal a deeper layer. The world looks static, but mechanisms active. Invisible corrections happening, every rotation, every meter traveled. So when train passes, quietly beside platform, remember this detail. Each wheel rotation carries subtle steering. Each slight displacement triggers restoring motion. Not dramatic, not loud, almost poetic physics. Metal shaped carefully, following mathematical truth, and that truth ensures safe transportation. Across mountains, across deserts, across entire continents. All because someone understood geometry, understood constraints, and applied physics with precision. Feynman would say, that is worth knowing, because it transforms ordinary observation into scientific appreciation, from flange assumption to conical insight, from surface belief to structural understanding. That shift in thinking is the real lesson, not just trains, but how to think. Look again carefully at everyday objects. There is often hidden reasoning inside. Feynman often said, real learning begins when confusion appears. This train question was one example. Simple surface answer. Deep structural truth. Flange seems obvious, but obvious misleads. He liked that tension between assumption and reality, because science grows from discomfort first. When something feels wrong, curiosity activates. Now step back, look at the whole system. Two rails parallel, two wheels connected. Rigid steel axle, massive moving body. everything constrained tightly, no independent rotation. At first glance, it seems impossible. How can rigid wheels navigate flexible curves? But physics answers, with geometry again. Shape modifies motion, without extra parts. This is elegant design, minimal yet sufficient. The taper angle small, but effect continuous. At every instant, during every rotation. Effective radius adjusts, automatically and smoothly. No sudden change, no discrete mechanism, just continuous variation along the cone surface. That continuity matters, because motion continuous. Physics prefers smoothness over abrupt correction. If wheels were cylindrical, with sharp flange steering, motion would be harsh and inefficient. Instead, the taper creates gradual correction. Subtle steering forces, proportional to displacement. Small drift, small response. Large drift, larger response. That proportional behavior defines stability. Engineers call this a restoring mechanism. Feynman loved restoring forces. They appear everywhere. Springs pull back, gravity pulls downward. Electric fields attract, magnetic fields align. Here geometry restores center position. Different domain, same principle. Disturb a system, it resists proportionally. And that proportionality creates equilibrium. Trains demonstrate this without visible springs. No elastic band, no steering linkage. Yet behavior spring-like. Because geometry encodes mathematical relationship between lateral shift and forward distance. That relationship produces angular correction. Angular correction recenters the entire vehicle. Now imagine observing. Without knowing physics, you see heavy steel rolling smoothly forward. It feels brute force, pure mass and inertia. But hidden inside is subtle mathematics. Diameter difference small, but distance difference cumulative. Each rotation tiny correction. Thousands rotations large effect. And that accumulation keeps system stable. Feynman would pause at this moment. Because realization strikes. Ordinary objects contain extraordinary reasoning. The wheel profile is not decoration, it is argument, made in steel. An argument about curves, an argument about stability, an argument about economy. Instead of complexity, engineers used shape. Instead of more parts, they refined geometry. That refinement solves two independent challenges. Turning through curves, maintaining central alignment. One physical idea, multiple consequences. That efficiency is hallmark of physics. When one principle explains many effects, understanding deepens. Feynman valued that unity across different systems. Because physics not collection of unrelated tricks, it is structure, underlying appearances. So the train example was never just trains, it was demonstration of scientific thinking. Start with observation, question common answer. Search underlying mechanism. Follow logical steps. Notice constraints. Rigid axle limitation, notice geometry, tapered wheel profile. Combine both carefully, allow reasoning to unfold. Then clarity emerges, almost inevitable. And when clarity arrives, surprise transforms into quiet satisfaction. That feeling matters, because it motivates inquiry. It teaches patience against quick assumptions. It teaches precision in everyday language. Flange does not steer, flange prevents failure. Tapered surface steers through radius difference. Words must match actual mechanism, otherwise confusion persists. Feynman insisted always on that discipline. Say what truly happens, not what sounds plausible. In this case, what truly happens is diameter variation across a conical surface. Rigid coupling enforces equal angular velocity. Equal angular velocity creates different linear displacement. Different displacement induces corrective yaw motion. Corrective yaw stabilizes the moving train. Step-by-step reasoning, no mystery left, and once understood, you cannot unsee it. Next time train passes, you imagine contact points. One slightly thicker, one slightly thinner. You imagine tiny steering happening constantly, invisible yet precise. That mental image is scientific awareness. World becomes layered, not just surface impressions. Metal wheel on rail becomes dynamic system. Geometry interacting with constraint and motion. That is transformation, from seeing to understanding. And that transformation was always Feynman's goal. Not memorizing facts, but learning how to ask sharper questions about ordinary things. Because inside ordinary often hides principle, and inside principle often hides beauty. The train stays centered, not by force alone, but by thoughtful design, rooted in physics, and that realization is quietly profound.